How's it, everybody? Hope you're having an amazing day. Welcome to How's It Cousins, the podcast where we take a look at the unique people of the world and the interesting things they do. We talk about and we relate to them. Hopefully we help you, our audience, relate to them as well. On today's show, we are getting hype for UFC 237, which is happening soon, because it will mark the next big fight for our own local hero, the Prodigy, BJ Penn.
Yes. How's it, Chris? Are you talking about BJ Penn? I'm down to talk about BJ Penn. Let's do this.
Aloha, Alvin. Welcome to the MMA podcast show.
Yeah, man. I'm always down to talk to you. It's always fun. Let's do it.
All right, before we get into it, I want to remind everyone that you are watching us live at twitch.tv/howsitnetwork. If you want to jump in the chat, interact with us, have fun with us, you can check us out whenever we do our live recordings. Make sure you follow us on social media at How's It Network on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram so that you know when we're going live and you can come hang out. If you like what we're hearing, this show airs on all the popular podcast services, including iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, anything you like. Check out howsitnetwork.com for the consolidated collection, we'll say, of all of our stuff. Alvin, you got anything you want to plug before we get started?
Yes. My name is Aloha Alvin, and you can find more of me at alohalvin.com.
All right. So we are getting into it this week because in a couple weeks, compared to when we're recording, BJ Penn, who is known locally as the Prodigy, will be fighting in UFC 237. And it's one of his, we'll say, return fights because he was retired actually from MMA for a little while. He's a little older. I think he's 40 now. I can't emphasize enough how much BJ Penn has meant to the state of Hawaii and how much we follow him still. So seeing him back in action is exciting for me. It's amazing that he's able to continue this career even at his age. And I'm just hyped to know that he's going to be representing Hawaii once again.
You know, pretty much anyone that's famous or doing well, I feel like most of the time people from Hawaii will call him local boy or local girl. And sometimes I feel like, can we apply this term to this person? You know what I mean? Like, we enjoy applying it, and I do too, and I think it's fun. You know, in the case of BJ Penn, man, totally. You know, like, I feel like his roots are here, which is good. I feel like he's still connected here, which is also good. Without naming names, because I don't mean it to be negative, but there are other people who are like, let's just say they were here for 10 seconds or maybe, you know, 1 week of their lives. And we're like, totally, they're one of us. And I'm like, okay, we can't call that person a local boy. But to my knowledge, BJ Penn, born and raised in Hawaii, well, Big Island, but still, you know, like, not Oahu, so not quite that close to me.
Okay.
But hey, Big Island, still close. And, yeah, man, you know, I love it. Like, I believe his phrase was just scrap. And I don't think that term is used that way, for people who don't come from the islands. So in this case, it just means, hey, just fight. You know, like he says, just do it. In his case, just scrap, aka just fight. It's really appropriate for what he does.
I agree with you. So BJ Penn, according to Wikipedia, he was born in Kailua, but
I didn't know that.
But he fights out of Hilo, okay, which is interesting. Yes. So for those that don't know, Kailua is actually on Oahu. And maybe that's where he's born, but his family might have moved to Hilo. I don't have the full history. In the Twitch chat, we'll just throw it out right now because you had mentioned it. Klingon of Sparta, dude, let's be honest, he's gonna get wrecked. And
oh, that's rough.
Well, okay,
sorry,
so
go ahead. Okay.
No, we'll be fair with this, right? So BJ Penn, when he first started in MMA, he was kicking major ass, right? Yes. He is, at the time, back then, was known as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport. However, his last, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights ended up in losses. And it doesn't bode well for him. And there's a good chance he might lose. But hey, you know what? It doesn't change the fact that we here are still hyped for him. We still cheer for him just because in Hawaii, that's what we do.
You know, for me, I mean, my background when it comes to competitive stuff is, well, let's just be honest, video games. And I've definitely played, well, video games or even board games, whatever, normal games. There's a time where you're close to losing and it's rough. But for me, at least, I never give up. Doesn't matter. I try anyway. I always try my best. For a Street Fighter, my friends would say I'm the guy who wins the most. The reason why I mention that is, you know what? When my friends win against me, they won. Okay, there's no charity there. If they beat me, they beat me. So like for me, it's always fight it out. Always try your best, no matter what. And if he is even remotely interested in stepping back in the ring, then yes, I will support him. I say go for it. Good luck. Hopefully everything goes well. Totally. Oh, do we know the name of the other guy? No offense, but to me, he's just BJ Penn's opponent. That's how my brain thinks of it. So,
yeah, he's fighting Clay Guida.
Oh, I know that name. Oh man. Oh, fascinating. Do you know the character? Okay, I'm not insulting Clay at all. I'm not. This is just what my brain does. Are you familiar with the character Sideshow Bob?
Yes.
Okay, you know how crazy Sideshow Bob's hair is?
Yep. Clay Guida
that's
hair.
how I know. Yeah, his hair is ridiculous.
It's pretty nice.
I think Joe Rogan even said once, how does he fight with all that stuff on his face? But hey, he manages to do well too, So interesting, the two of them.
So it's interesting that we talk about UFC and it was originally marketed as a no rules fighting competition where you could have different styles of fighting going up against each other. It's kind of like an unspoken rule that there's no hair pulling in UFC. It's kind of a thing. So even people like Clay Guida, who's got crazy hair, can still make it through. Despite maybe it gets in his eyes or gets in the way of some things, at least he doesn't have to worry about it being used as a weapon against him.
Okay, I will have to break this down from a long, long time ago. I don't remember the name of this man. I think he was from Hawaii. It doesn't really matter. So anyway, there's a guy, he was fighting UFC, probably UFC 1. Fairly large dude, very muscular. And he had a long ponytail. And in that fight, this is a long time ago, the opponent grabs his ponytail and then punches him in the face over and over. And I think even the announcer was like, all right, everybody, don't worry. This is very normal. We allow this hair pulling thing. But that was back then. There have been many, many, many rules that have been implemented since then. So just to clarify for the people who love UFC and know the difference, in the old days, that actually was allowed, which is crazy. There was a lot that was allowed in the old days. It's kind of crazy.
Well, even more so in the old days. Do you remember watching the really old UFCs? Have you seen UFC 1, 2, one of those?
I've seen a couple. I've seen a couple of them. Yeah. So wait, are you saying the Gracie thing?
Yeah.
Are you going with?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Yeah. For the record, to tie it back to BJ Penn, to my knowledge, he did train with one of the Gracies. I don't remember the exact name, but I do know it's pretty ridiculous. He did quite well and fast. Oh yeah, that was the other thing. His training was ridiculous. That term, the Prodigy, comes about because he did so well so quickly. I looked it up earlier. I believe he made black belt in 3 years. I have no idea how hard that is. I'm pretty sure black belt is a lifelong equation for most normal human beings. So BJ Penn doing that, dude, Prodigy is totally the correct word. That's ridiculous.
So before we jump into the super nostalgic UFC stuff,
sure.
Yes, apparently according to the Wikipedia article, BJ Penn trained under Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for Ralph Gracie, who is I think he's a nephew of Royce Gracie. Back in 97. He is also the first non-Brazilian to win the black belt division of the World Jiu-Jitsu Championship in Brazil.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So yeah, basically you're right. He got his black belt super fast and he was a prodigy from a younger age.
So yeah. Okay, wait. So I didn't know when I was going to throw this down, but we're kind of talking about the past, so I'm going to throw it down anyway. So this is for fun. Again, I'm a fan of BJ Penn. I read stuff about him. And one of the things was, so his past, right? So in the old days, apparently, BJ Penn and his buddies, they would literally just fight in the backyard. That was the equivalent of skateboarding for fun. Apparently, they would fight, literally just be punching each other. So that was, I believe, in the Big Island. And then the neighbor of that family, of the BJ Penn family, the neighbor went up to BJ Penn's dad, and he was, I think he went to BJ Penn first. And he's like, hey, I want to train you, man. You should come work with me. BJ Penn's like, man, whatever. I don't want to do this. And then again, they're still fighting out there. And then eventually that man went to the father of BJ Penn. He's like, yo, can you talk to your son? I would really like to train him. Seriously, can you talk to him? And BJ Penn's like, nah, I don't want to do that, And then eventually it became a yes. So to clarify, because I was telling my friend this story a while back, and I had to break it down because he didn't really know, and I barely remember the details. The equivalent would be, say my neighbor was Eric Clapton, okay, and he comes up to me and he says, Alvin, I want to teach you how to play guitar, and I'm like, man, Eric Clapton, I don't want to play guitar, leave me alone. And then he continues to ask me to play guitar, and the equivalent would be like my cell phone is ringing and it says Eric Clapton, and I'd be like, Eric, why are you calling me? Stop bothering me with this. The guy who wanted to train BJ Penn, I forgot his name, but he was like world class something. I forgot if it was world class like boxing or maybe jujitsu because it's BJ Penn. But like, can you imagine how ridiculous that is? You know, like how often does a young man or a young woman have someone of that caliber just suddenly be interested in you? I believe it was this man who said, yo, you need to move over there. And I guess that's where Gracie's were. You need to move over there and you need to train with them. All right. This is not a conversation. You need to do this. BJ Penn's like, you know what? I'm young and dumb and doing dumb things. Why not? And then here we are now, you know, like the Prodigy. Again, ridiculous. That's so cool.
From the Twitch chat, saying that when BJ Penn debuted, it was about 2 years. From what I'm reading right now, if BJ Penn started training in 1997, he was awarded his black belt in 2000. So that's about right. 2 years and change.
Damn. That's cool. Yeah.
So I don't know exactly who you're referring to that would have picked him out of Hilo, but it sounds about right that he did from a young age show talent and definitely was someone who accelerated very quickly in this sport.
Regarding the doing well thing. So I asked my friend this because I don't remember. I know that BJ Penn is, as one of the announcers put it, already a Hall of Famer. He's not in theory going to be. I believe he already is.
That is correct.
Yes. So how do we know that? Well, the man has 2 belts, or he had 2 belts in 2 different weight classes, which is ridiculous. So for the people listening, because I didn't know, I had to look it up. So BJ Penn, Conor McGregor, Randy Couture, George St. Pierre, and Daniel Cormier. I'm like, damn, that's cool. So there's only been 6 people in that whole organization that have done this, which is ridiculous. That's cool.
Absolutely. So BJ Penn was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame in 2015. And a lot of it is because he was able to get the championship in 2 separate weight classes, which not many people can do. He was the welterweight and the lightweight champion at the same time at one point.
I've never actually tried this, but I remember seeing a video, and I'm pretty sure it's BJ Penn because I remember the voice and etc. So anyway, it's a video of BJ Penn, and he's in a swimming pool, and it's up to his shoulders. So apparently it's like 3 feet of water. So while he's up to his shoulders in the water, he then jumps one big jump out of the pool and lands on the cement. And the whole room or the whole area is just like, damn, it's ridiculous. Because you know what? That is ridiculous. And apparently that's super difficult to do. And only a handful of people on Earth can do that. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
So it's funny. Growing up, I played volleyball. And in Hawaii, a lot of times we would do our training at the beach when we were, I guess, doing conditioning and things like that. So part of our training would be to go into the ocean at maybe, we'll say, waist deep water and jump because, you know, in volleyball, there's a lot of jumping. And the resistance of the water would be kind of almost like weight training.
Interesting.
So I can definitely relate to what you're talking about because it's super fucking hard to jump in water. So to jump up to, we'll say like chest high, even bringing your knees up and getting out of a pool when shoulder deep in water is absolutely ridiculous because we used to do it from about waist high and, you know, bring your knees up and it was super hard. Am I familiar with the BJ Penn story of that? No, but that is crazy to know that that is a thing.
Yeah. Apparently, once that was posted, some other guys were doing it, and it's still not a common enough thing. Pretty sure you could find it if you dug it up, but yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, it's funny because I don't think I found it via looking for BJ Penn. I think I was just on yahoo.com or something, and then it just said, hey, check this out. And I'm like, oh, damn, that is BJ Penn. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So a lot of things that we looked up, or I looked up at least, talk about BJ Penn being one of the greatest pound for pound fighters in the sport. So for our listeners, let's define that a little bit. Because he competed in multiple weight classes, they try to equate different fighters because we'll just say that someone who's really heavy might have an advantage over someone who's really small when it comes to fist fighting, or in this case, MMA fighting.
Sure.
So they try to, I guess, normalize the different fighters across like who they've beaten, who what their skill levels are. And pound for pound is one of those, it's not a belt or it's not a trophy, but it's kind of a street cred type award. And
Sure.
UFC president Dana White credits BJ Penn as the man who brought the lower weight divisions, i.e. the lighter foot people, the smaller people, into the mainstream of mixed martial arts.
Oh, interesting.
Penn is supposedly the first crossover pay-per-view star for the UFC lightweight divisions. Through his accomplishments, he built the 155-pound division almost single-handedly. Other pound-for-pound fighters include people like Floyd Mayweather, if you guys know boxing. Another person that can hold his own within his weight class and in other weight classes.
I gotta say that I'm just gonna say directly as a BJ Penn fan, I can barely even name the other people. Now, to me, I blame myself. I didn't research it enough as the viewer. If there's like, the fact that I know it's Clay Guida is just a coincidence that you've told me that I know that name. Like, that was one of the names that I encountered as a fan of UFC. But in general, like, cause I have friends who can name everyone in every weight class, which is incredible. But for me, especially back then, even now, it's like BJ Penn and then Max Holloway. These are the guys I know. They cover them on the news in Hawaii, so therefore I know them. In my mind, it is just BJ Penn. And I never thought of it that way. But I can definitely say prior to BJ Penn, I cannot name anyone. Even some of the guys he was beating up, like Kao Terra, I'm butchering the name, but I don't know anything from him prior or after, Even Frankie Edgar, who I think beat him, I didn't know him at all. He was just some dude who was fighting BJ Penn. It's crazy and terrible, I guess. But
from the Twitch chat, I hear that the smaller guy can usually win over the heavier guy most of the time. I mean, that could be the case. It depends on the strategy. And that kind of leads into what I want to bring up next, in that you say that you don't know a lot of the people prior to BJ Penn, but earlier in the show, we did mention the beginnings of UFC, to where a great example of the smaller guy being the bigger guy was Royce Gracie.
True. That is correct. That is correct.
Where were you when watching UFC 1 or 2, or whichever one of those early ones you did see, if you saw it?
Well, I did see the earlier ones, but for me, it was absolutely DVDs by then. I did not see them live. I think the first UFC fight I did see was a BJ Penn fight. So,
really?
To clarify, yeah, I was not aware. Okay, wait. So, I know some women that I've talked to about UFC, and they're the only ones to voice this. Now, I'm certain there are guys who feel this way, but no one tells me it. So anyway, I remember reading in an article, and the term that I read, which still blows my mind because I don't feel that way, was human cockfighting. That MMA is human cock. Yeah, that is a strong term, man. Like, and if you were to put the negative connotation of cockfighting into something that humans do, it's terrible. Just straight up terrible. I don't feel that way. For the record, I imagine those same people would feel the same way about, like, say, boxing, which has been on TV for forever, But yeah, I remember there's a fight, and I believe the man's name was Lawazo. He was very good with elbows, and he was fighting this other guy, and I swear, it looked like someone opened a can of ragu and just spread it on the ring. It was ridiculous.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the guy had a gash on his face, like the size, like an inch or so. It was ridiculous. I've never seen anything that bad. I remember just thinking, wow, this is terrible. Now, the funny thing is, I don't watch that many other, like, contact sports. It's really just UFC. And even then, not that much. But I know that happens. I know blood is a thing. And I've seen guys in boxing who, like, you could literally not recognize them because their faces were so puffy. They've just been punched many, many times. It affects them. And I think it's not fair to dump that on the UFC. I feel like a lot of things have that.
I'll tell my story at least. I remember being a kid, and
yes.
Did you watch WWE or WWF back then?
Oh, yeah, a little bit.
So I remember
yeah.
Back then as a kid, I used to go to Blockbuster Video, and I used to get the old WWF tapes and watch them. We used to rent them from Blockbuster. And I remember finding the UFC tapes, UFC 1, 2, 3, like the really old ones in a corner of Blockbuster thinking, what the hell is this? Oh my
Sure,
God, this is like
sure,
real fighting? I mean, because at
sure.
that age, I could figure out that wrestling was fake, of course, right? And this thing was like a huge, like, oh my God, they fight for real? So that was my experience with it. Getting my parents to rent it for me because, of course, like there's a age warning on the UFC fights because they're fake as shit. I remember watching that first UFC 1 with Hoist Gracie, and as mentioned in the Twitch chat, to where the small guy beats the big guy, that it was crazy to watch Hoist Gracie just whittle guys down.
Okay.
From the Twitch chat, real quick. Bedtime Bear, welcome to the Twitch chat. Thank you for
Oh, hey.
jumping in. Does
What's up?
boxing
Welcome.
gloves cause more concussions due to the impact being spread out? You know, in theory, boxing gloves, I think, I would think that boxing gloves would spread out the impact and actually cause less concussions as a result because it's absorbed on the face a little more. Just saying. Now, same thing when you kind of take away that and go to UFC. I think that's why so many times in the UFC we see guys get knocked out in like 10 seconds or 20 seconds because the strike is so hard to the correct place. It rattles the brain or whatever it takes to knock something out.
Well, I will say this as a guy who knows nothing, but I have heard commentators talking about it. So Mike Tyson, super dangerous guy. You know, he wore boxing gloves when he did his dangerous thing. And the commentary was, yo, what if Mike Tyson was in the UFC? Oh, it'd be ridiculous. And I guess because the gloves are different, so the expectation from the professionals is that if a professional boxer was wearing different things, aka not boxing gloves, it'd be even worse. So supposedly, and again, I'm not a doctor, supposedly that the boxing gloves help make it not as dangerous. But even then, people get seriously hurt during boxing. Okay, wait. I gotta say something because you mentioned this, and I don't know if you glossed over this in your mind back then when you were younger, but I absolutely thought of this. So this is a very real conversation that guys have, or at least guys in movies have. I think it's pretty accurate though. All right, man, I do karate, so I'm the best. No, you know, I do wrestling, I'm the best. And it's like, well, I do kickboxing, I'm the best, right? So at some point, someone's going to say, why don't you guys fight each other? Okay, well, the wrestling guy, I'll fight him because I'm boxing and I'll beat him, or whatever the logic is. I'm pretty sure UFC 1 is the epitome of that. You know, like someone said, all right, that's enough. We're done talking. Let's make it happen. I forgot who Hoist was fighting, but Hoist, Jiu-Jitsu man, was fighting like one guy was a Muay Thai guy or something. One guy was a boxer. So it was a mix. I forgot which was which. But yeah, it was crazy. Like just to add more to that legacy because it's ridiculous. I believe back then, again, hair pulling, no problem. One of the things was okay, so normally let's say Mike Tyson's gonna fight someone, right? That's one fight. That's what we do. We make it a special thing. Everybody come watch it. I believe UFC 1, there were no breaks. Or if there were breaks, it didn't last very long. Because I think Hoist beat like 7 people in a row. Ridiculous. For the record, my limited knowledge of Gracie things or Jiu-Jitsu things shows that, or told me that the entire premise of it is energy conservation and being super efficient with what you're doing. And you know what? If you're fighting 7 different guys who are trying to kill you, I can't imagine like what would be better. You know, like what would save you more than that? So totally.
So I'll clear it up. It wasn't 7 guys, but the first few UFCs, I think the first maybe 10 or so, were all tournament style. So to win, you actually have to beat like 3 guys in a row or 3 guys over the course of a night, as opposed to now where you only do 1 fight a night. So yes, it was all about conserving energy. And from the Twitch chat, true, energy is the key. I agree with you, Sparta.
Yes,
so
totally.
That was the thing back then, in that the strategy and the style of the fighters had to be way different compared to now. You talk about how mixing the styles was the thing. That was the whole concept behind the UFC, is to settle the argument of who would win in a fight, the karate guy or the boxer or the jiu-jitsu guy. Ironically enough, one of the co-creators of UFC was Rorion Gracie, who is one of the brothers of Hoist Gracie. And he personally chose Hoist Gracie to represent the Gracie family in this show.
Oh, trippy. See, I didn't know that. Interesting. You know
So
if he's still there now?
he's like way older, dude. Like Hoist
Okay,
Gracie's
let's
like
check.
50
No, no,
something.
no, 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 no.
Oh, Rory and
The
Gracie?
brother.
He's even
Yeah.
older than that. I think he's an older
Huh.
brother.
I just asked because Matt some serious money. Okay, anyway, continue.
Absolutely. But if you think about it, right, the Gracie clan is famous for the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's called Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Yes, their
So,
name is on it.
exactly. So why wouldn't you try to use this as a pay-per-view thing to show off your family's prize, I'll say possession, but your prize trait?
I'm gonna dial it back to BJ Penn for a bit. I I don't watch a lot of UFC. I try to when I can. Obviously, chunks of that was BJ Penn in the UFC. So I remember seeing this. I believe it was him beating up Matt Hughes, and then Matt Hughes was like dazed because of course he was just in a fight. And then BJ Penn, if I remember correctly, either grabbed Matt Hughes' face and licked him, or touched blood on his face and then licked his own glove. Are you familiar with any of these or either of these?
I am not, but that's pretty fucked up if you think about it.
No, see, that's why. That's why. I forgot the explanation. Someone was telling me, yeah, man, it's a warrior thing. You know, like gaining the energy of your enemies. I thought maybe you could explain it a little bit better, but I'm not familiar with it. Okay. Sparta.
That is not one of the things I looked up. If anyone in chat
Okay.
knows that, man, please give us some insight. But holy shit, that's crazy.
Because part of me, again, with my limited knowledge, I was like, is that a thing? Are there other people who do this? And to my knowledge, literally no one else does that. So, okay.
From the chat, we'll just talk about this for a second. What about Bruce Lee? Can you imagine Bruce Lee in MMA?
See, so once again, right, because I'm a nerd and I watch movies and I talk to guys, this is one of those things that comes up. Now, in the old days, it was very simple. I grapple, no, I punch. All right, well, we're going to fight and see who wins. But clearly, because of how the sport has evolved, the true winner is the man who can do everything. You know, or at least knows some stuff of all the genres or whatever. Bruce Lee, I remember there was a fight. I think it was it Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Yes.
The giant man?
Yes,
okay,
yes,
okay.
yes.
So, in that fight, Bruce Lee versus Kareem, there's a couple of things people always remember. So, Bruce was wearing yellow. There's the footprint on his chest, man. Iconic. I love it. Super iconic. Yep. But one of the things that I think people always forget is there's a part where Bruce Lee jumps on Kareem, because he's down already, jumps on him and tries to choke him. So it's like a rear naked choke. I forgot what it was, but there's grappling. It's ground fighting. I do not associate anything with Bruce Lee with ground fighting in general. He's the guy with the crazy kicks, fast punches, blah, blah, blah. But in that film, and he had saying this, he was like, I want there to be grappling in this movie. And I remember thinking, man, that's badass. I forgot who he was with, but someone said somewhere, I mean, there are a lot of Bruce Lee stories, but one of them was he did study some grappling. So he was MMA before MMA existed. He would have been a monster. Yeah, I have complete faith, especially in the beginning. Like right now, I don't know. That's a hard call. There's a lot of guys with a lot of coaches under their belt, etc. But back then, the way Bruce trained, what he did, clearly he was already doing the MMA thing. I mean, if you think about it, Jeet Kune Do is kind of like a mixed martial art already. I remember reading somewhere, like his philosophy was, if it works, take it. If it don't work, throw it away. Like try to make everything efficient. I remember he studied boxing. He loved the economy of energy, all that good stuff. Everything I've seen about him is like, dude, that is MMA. That was MMA before MMA really existed in the mainstream.
Man, we can only fantasize on how that would be in a pay-per-view event. Holy shit. That is nuts.
Man, I would have been all over that. And the beauty of this is, I don't think it's quite just theoretical in the sense that I think Bruce Lee would have said, yep, let's do it. Put me in. I've heard enough stories about him challenging people and fighting and various people. I think he would have said, yeah, I want to try this. And he would actually put his hat in the ring. So that would have been interesting.
It would have been interesting. So it's funny we talk about Bruce Lee and real fighting because nowadays, and I guess even back then too, although UFC was marketed as a real fighting type thing, the fighters themselves eventually developed their own kind of personalities. They developed their own showmanship. We talk about BJ Penn, and he walks into the ring to Hawaii 78 and Ealae from Israel,
Yes.
Brother is. Yeah.
Brother is.
So it's his own showcase of the culture. And from the Twitch chat, Sparta's saying, yeah, he would lick his gloves all the time. So it's a thing.
Oh, okay. Wait,
So
but my
go ahead.
okay, real quick, because he seems to know. My impression was it was literally the point to lick the blood of the other guy, or was it just a coincidence?
I think that is the point, to be honest.
Oh, okay, it was. No, that's why. Well, I just because I see licking, like I've seen NBA players lick their hands and touch their feet, or vice versa. I'm like, what are you doing? So there's licking that I don't understand in sports. Okay, anyway.
Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that these guys who are trained fighters, they actually become performers in such a way because they're on TV, pay-per-view. It makes them money too. Look at Conor McGregor. A lot of his fame is more outside of the octagon, vice in, especially because he's been getting his ass kicked so much lately. But he's still making a shit ton of money. So
Yes.
my question to you now is, let's compare BJ Penn to another MMA Hall of Famer, Randy Couture.
Okay.
Two guys, both fighting in different weight classes at different times, both getting the UFC championship at different times. But Randy Couture was in the Expendables.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
BJ
So-
Penn has been on The Ultimate Fighter. That's about it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that is a very interesting point. I'm trying to answer this in my head first without a controversial answer, and it's kind of hard. I will say this though, Randy Couture. This is back in the old days. Okay, are you familiar with passing the guard or I don't know, like Kimura? There's a lot of terms in jiu-jitsu. Do you know those things?
Not really, to be honest.
Okay. See, so I'm not shaming you. I'm gauging here because if my gut says Chris don't know, chances are other people don't know too. So I'll skip all that. When there's two guys on the ground, there's a lot going on, right? Like if something goes south, oh, he's choked. It's over. Like the dude, you blacked out, you got choked. It's over. See, if you don't know what's going on, it's just two dudes rolling around. It's really awkward to watch. See,
True.
see,
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. If you
I'm
knew
not-
nothing, if you knew nothing
Yes.
about the technicality of jiu-jitsu or fighting, it's just one dude straddling another dude and they're trying to roll around on top of each other. Literally, that's what it is, right?
The term Joe Rogan uses is like it's like chess, and it's true. You know, like do you know what castling is in chess?
Castling the king and castling the queen when
Yeah,
you do the
see, there you
switcheroo.
go.
Yep.
See, you know that. See, but like if you didn't know, it's like the hell are these two guys talking about, man? What is this, right? So there's a lot of confusion for the average viewer. Having said that, I remember Joe Rogan saying something like, "Man, people really know what's going on now," which is cool. So the fans know the terms at least. Now, what I'm getting at is Randy Couture, not that he was anti on the ground. I think he was actually pretty good at takedowns. But Randy Couture was really good at punching. Now, if I know nothing about groundwork, I still know what a punch is. You know, as a kid, I threw my own punches and I received my own punches. Of course, little boys punching, that's a known thing. Punches and kicks. So if I was a movie person, like a casting person, and I had to choose one of these individuals, I would probably choose the one who punches. You know, like I don't think the average viewer even understand. Well, maybe now, yes, but back in the days, the average viewer didn't even understand what was going on. There's all these weird things. Like a rear naked choke is a very busy thing, but even if you don't understand it, you can see the guy black out. Like, geez, you know, like he's in a bad situation. You can tell. But now they know more. So maybe if BJ Penn was huge now instead of back then, maybe more of a movie thing that's based solely on this logic. But Randy Couture, good on punches, boom, you're ready. You're ready. You throw punches, you win. You know, like we can market this essentially.
Exactly. What's I was gonna get to was that I don't know that BJ Penn is that much of a on-camera personality, like a talker. I didn't watch the Ultimate Fighter when he was on there. So from the chat, Kuroy, welcome to the show. You know, there's always WWE saying that that's where the MMA fighters go after they retire. Alvin, what do you think about BJ Penn going to WWE? Possible, not possible, good, not good? Because some guys do it, right? Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey, now, you know, those big personalities, they take that to WWE. Randy Couture, I don't think was ever in WWE, but he did movies instead. So,
Correct.
BJ Penn?
So
no?
Here's the thing, all right? People, first of all, that is correct. Second of all, people shame WWE related things, and I think that's not fair because I think it's fun entertainment, you know? Now, the reason why I mention all that is I believe there could be something actually. So, as a guy who barely knows anything about WWE, I do know there was The Rock. I love The Rock. He's a great guy, right? Seems awesome. I do know there were actually other people also from Hawaii. So, I mean, like right here, you can, like, I'm a writer, so it's just what I do in my head. Okay, sure, let's write BJ Penn in. What do? Well, Hawaiian ties. Boom. Do we want to make him quote unquote related to The Rock? Why not? Make it happen if you want to or you don't. The Usos, I think, they play off of their ethnic background as well. BJ Penn could be one of them. You know, I have no clue if he's interested in that.
BJ Penn is one of the Usos. Oh my God.
Maybe not that directly, but you know what I'm saying? Like there's a tie-in, you know? So
in the chat, Kuroi, let me know what you think about that. He's a huge WWE fan. BJ Penn as a distant cousin of the Usos. Give me your thoughts on that one. Oh my God.
I will break this down. And so growing up, I remember people dumping on Vanilla Ice. I remember that, you know, and I remember watching an interview with Vanilla Ice later, and he says, okay, you know what, man? People always tell me I sold out. Fine, they told me I sold out. But you know what? I sold out for like $1 million. Are you telling me if I were to give you $1 million to dance on stage, that you would not dance on stage? I'm like, you know what, man? Vanilla Ice, bro, you're right. I will dance on stage right now if someone hands me $1 million. Like, that's insane. So I don't know what the WWE payout is, but Lesnar must be doing well. And I imagine Ronda Rousey got handed some serious coin.
Oh my God. Like, I can't even imagine how much Ronda Rousey got paid to do a
it's
WWE
gotta be
appearance.
silly.
It must be out of control.
Yeah, it's gotta be silly. Yeah. On one hand, you know, yeah, it's not the same as UFC. Clearly it's not. But bro, I'm sure BJ Penn got bills. Everyone does. You know, he needs to eat. Sure, everyone does. So I would not shame him if that was the case. Actually, I would, as a fan of BJ Penn, I'd be like, yeah, sign me up. I want to see.
So from the chat, think about this. What about BJ Penn as the manager of the Usos? He's a little older than
Oh, okay, sure,
right?
sure.
And then maybe kind of work him into getting to the ring at some point. What do you think about that?
Man, I'd be all over that. Like, for me, I remember as a kid watching WWE, so wrestler A versus wrestler B, and then jerk manager C grabs a chair and slams somebody. You know, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, why not? It's entertainment. I'm fine with it. You know, I would be interested. Actually, not gonna lie, I would be interested.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. See. Yeah.
Neeks, thanks for joining the show. Always like the nickname for BJ Penn, the Prodigy. Yes, we did discuss that a little earlier, but I'm gonna kind of segue into that in him being the Prodigy, being the amazing talent that he was when he first started. It was crazy for us in Hawaii to experience that with him because we attached that people from Hawaii doing super well. BJ Penn at the time, because MMA was becoming more and more popular, someone that we could relate to that was quote unquote the prodigy of the sport was an amazing thing to watch. So much so that we actually have in Hawaii, we have 4 UFC gyms on this island alone. That means that there are 4 UFC gyms. And in Hawaii, they are called UFC Gym, in quotes, BJ Penn. And they are all within 15 miles of each other, guys. 15 miles. We have 4. That's how much this guy meant to us here. Is that there are 4 gyms in his name within 15 miles of each other. It's a huge inspiration to have someone like that be the prodigy to us and be such a role model to the people here. He even has his own gym, BJ Penn Gym, on the Big Island in Hilo, where he does his own thing over there. That's where actually he trains out of when he gets ready for a fight. But I'll repeat it one more time. Where I live, there are 4 BJ Penn gyms within 15 miles of my house right now. FYI.
I didn't know there were 4.
There's 4. It's ridiculous. Mililani, Waikele, Town, and Kailua. There are 4. I looked that up for today, and I thought that was stupid because I've seen a couple of them, but this is just dumb. I didn't know that much. Anyway.
You know what? Props to him. You know? That's cool. See, like, okay, so there's a guy, I don't remember his name, but like, let's say you wanted to be a quarterback, like the best quarterback that ever lived. So you could hire someone who's a good quarterback, great quarterback, and teach you to be a great quarterback. That guy, I don't remember his name, but he was in the NFL, big name. So he was a high paid coach, you know? Like, the name recognition of BJ Penn, I don't know how much money that would pull in, but that's gotta be a thing. He could be that guy too. Clearly the gyms are there, you know? That's pretty awesome.
So, from the chat, apparently both Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey pull like in the millions for like these really limited showings. So, it's nuts to think what another personality could make in that type of industry.
For the record, I have friends who love WWE more than like anything. It's ridiculous. Anyway, they told me something like, so think about it this way, right? Say I was the manager of Brock Lesnar and I wanted him to be in the WWE. There's always shows, I believe multiple shows per week. I don't think he does any of those. But then, okay, where should we put him? And to my knowledge, he's just WrestleMania man. AKA, one time a year, he is doing stuff on stage, and that dude is pulling in multiple millions. That is ridiculous math. Ridiculous math, okay? I don't even know how often Ronda's on screen, but I remember my friends telling me Lesnar's very rarely on screen. That dude, and now that I know he's making multiple millions, which I'm not that surprised by, man, that's amazing. That's just amazing.
I think Ronda only appeared in like one pay-per-view so far.
See, that's what I figured. I'm not surprised by that either. I don't actually know what she does, but yeah, that makes sense. Because it's like, you know, you want to save them for the big events. But then in the grand scheme of things for that individual, I can't say it's a low amount of work. I'm sure they got to do their own upkeep and stuff. But compared to that dude who's getting slammed every week on WWE, totally different animal. Totally different.
I got corrected in chat. Ronda was there weekly. She had a regular schedule. Cool.
Holy crap. That's cool. I didn't know that. See, I assumed they were all the once a year people. That's how little I watch. Okay, wait. I feel like chat knows what's up. So I'm gonna throw this down. Okay. There was a fight with BJ Penn. I don't remember who the other guy was. So BJ Penn's doing well, and then there's a lot of jabs. His jabs were on point, man. Just punching the crap out of this guy. It was very unfortunate for the other man. So the commentary, like after the first round, was, "Yo, he got punched a lot, bro." Okay, after the second round, oh man, I got punched some more. And then eventually the fight ended. And I remember someone saying something like, because I was at a bar or a sports thing, and someone was saying, "Oh, you know, maybe you should have went to the ground." I'm like, dude, that's BJ Penn. How is going to the ground possibly the answer? You know, the answer to beating him is almost always, I imagine, staying on your feet. So even in that case, like, okay, so I'm gonna throw this at chat. You know, like, especially back in the old days, he was known as the ground beast. Like, what would the strategy be? Because I remember that guy who thought he could outbox him. It did not happen.
Well, I think the last few guys that fought him, you know, he lost, you know, from a submission. He lost through punches that being outstrike in the last few years. So it just depends, maybe. But
okay,
yeah, if anyone else knows, feel free to let us know.
You know, I mean, that brings up a good point. The phrase for baseball I remember hearing once was, quote unquote, "it's a young man's game." And if ever there was a sport, I imagine someone trying to choke you and punch you and kick you in the head, it would be a young man's sport. So yes, very rough stuff.
Chat seems to think that speed. It's got to be speed that beats BJ Penn. Got to be faster than him. I don't disagree with that.
I can see that. Because, well, the original joke, and even as a fan, and this pained me to say, but even as a fan, I was like, that man does not have gas in his tank. Now, that may have changed over time, but I remember, like, because he even said in something I read, he would run to his corner. And he was like, what the hell am I doing? You know, like, slow it down, save the energy. But yeah, he was very high energy. It was crazy. And I think a couple of the losses that I saw him in, it was in the later rounds. You know, like, let him burn his own energy out, then beat him. So that's a thing too. But yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that the sport is a young man's game. And I had talked about how BJ Penn has created his own mini legacy in Hawaii, opening the gyms. But because of his popularity as the Prodigy, it also spawned our own little MMA culture down here. Are you familiar with X1 and all the local MMA things that we have going on here?
One, I've heard of those things. Two, I didn't know they were local. That's pretty awesome. I assumed they were from like Japan or something.
Well, the X1 company itself is not a local company, but the events here are pretty often, at least once a month down at the Blaisdell. There's a ton of MMA, we'll say, fights that happen in Hawaii. It's like its own subculture.
Nice. No, but I do watch the news, and Angela Lee, hey, hope you do well.
Yep.
As well as, I want to say, Ilima McFarlane. Do you know her name?
I don't know the name, okay, but yes, Angela Lee, I've seen. It's crazy to think that on this island, we have a subculture of fighting. I guess that's not that crazy because there's fights all the time over here. I mean, there's the Max Holloways of the world too, right? That's a whole nother thing.
I think it's pretty amazing. I remember I forgot what fight it was, but it was not a title fight. And the announcer was like, "Yo, everybody get ready. Get ready. This guy's from Hawaii." And I remember thinking that was an interesting point to make. But then again, we have champions from Hawaii. That does make sense that would be a selling point for this fight. You know, even though it was not the main event, it was some other fight, but that would make sense for them to say that. And in retrospect, now that I think about it, that's amazing. You know, like that's quite a compliment. Just the fact that that fighter was from Hawaii, everybody better pay attention. Like, oh, cool. You know, because I don't think of it that way. But yeah.
No, it's totally true. Spartan in the Twitch chat saying that he was also very conditioned, conserving his already considerable energy. I think you're referring to the BJ Penn fight. Do you know who that was? Let us know. Let us know. I don't remember who the opponent was. That's kind of what we were stuck on.
This is the equivalent of what, like American Idol, I think, and Jasmine Trias, you know, whatever couple. Yeah,
I wouldn't want to say it's equivalent, but sure, yeah.
Oh no, sorry. In my head,
Okay.
What I'm getting at is whatever it is I'm watching, the local flavor, the local boy, local girl, that does affect who I'm cheering for. It's silly, but you know, why not? Why not cheer for the local boy? So for me, Max Holloway, doesn't even matter what he's doing. I hope he does well. I'm gonna cheer for him.
So for those that don't know, Alvin's reference was to season 3 of American Idol, where Jasmine Trias was a finalist, and they said many times on the show, you didn't do that well, but at least the state of Hawaii is cheering for you and voting for you because that's what keeps you here. It's nuts.
I remember.
It's nuts.
I remember hearing that. Yeah, I remember hearing that. So, but yeah, like that's cool. You know, it's something to get behind. I like the bonding that happens between fans. I mean, this is coming from a guy who was a New York Giants fan. Okay, I don't know any New York Giants fans. Like, period. I just don't know any. So I asked my friend's friend, "Hey, what's your favorite basketball team?" Because she's talking about basketball, and she's like, "Alvin, the Lakers." And I'm like, "Why?" "Oh, right, you're from LA, right?" See, like it's so obvious to her. You're from LA. I mean, if you're from LA, you got like 100 different teams to cheer for. Hawaii, no, we just don't. You know, like we don't have that. We don't have the NBA team here. We don't have the NFL team here. And I don't know if that's part of it for other people, but for me, I like having someone to cheer for. So hell yes, Max Holloway. Hell yes, BJ Penn.
So Twitch chat asking if it was the Dennis Seaver fight. That was more recent. I don't know if that's the one we're...
Oh, that was more recent. Yeah. Part of me, well, one, I kind of stopped watching UFC after a while. Multiple reasons. But one of the reasons that I missed a couple BJ Penn fights, and I'm just going to be very annoyed and just say that I was annoyed, is that I didn't know they were on. That name you just said, I don't even know that name, which bugs me. Like, I should at least be aware of who he's fighting. Like, the news usually covers it. But yeah, I guess after the Edgar losses, they weren't covering it as much as the news. Okay, it wasn't GSP. Anyway, it doesn't matter who it was. It was a while back. But yeah, I stopped watching after a while, which bugs me. I kind of want to watch this one. But then again, I don't even know where it would be. Sometimes they're on pay-per-view, sometimes they're not. I know there's fights like, was it ESPN or something? They have full-blown fights with the announcers and everything, but on like cable TV. So some of it I can't even follow because I don't know where it is.
We'll figure out off-show what that fight was, and maybe I'll throw it on Twitter or something.
Yeah. Sure.
We can't talk about BJ Penn without bringing up the real deal, and this is going to get a little real for chat. I have to bring it up. But another BJ Penn highlight that actually came to light more recently is that he got a temporary restraining order from his not wife, his ex-partner. This is from the Star Advertiser, which is a local newspaper in Hawaii. Former champion BJ Penn reportedly terrorized his estranged girlfriend in front of their 2 daughters, threatened to kill their family, according to a court statement. In her statement that kind of goes on, she said that there were years of physical, sexual abuse, and that BJ Penn was not the champion that you see on TV, but at home he's kind of like he abused drugs, and you know, he was drunk a lot, and it wasn't good for her. Now, I'm not gonna stick to that too much, but it's interesting that the UFC has not really taken a stance on that, because mostly he was not convicted of a crime. She filed for a restraining order because of an altercation. And in her statement saying that, you know, it's taking me this long to come forward because of who he was and his fame and everything like that. So there's no, we'll say, investigative evidence against him, just her old statement. For those that watch this show, that check us out, we really appreciate you. And I will say, first and foremost, that we do not condone this kind of action, but I won't shy away from saying that, hey, it's a real thing, that these people who we want to idolize may have a dark side to them. They may have their own skeletons in their own closet, but at the same time, we got to take that at face value. At this point, I'm not going to say that, yeah, he did or no, he didn't. If he did, then that's kind of fucked up, honestly. But that's what was said. That's what was reported on. And it's kind of in the background of this entire UFC 237 thing, because that restraining order just got issued by the state.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like a couple weeks ago, I think.
So I'm going to throw this down. This is not the same person. This is some famous quarterback. I think he didn't make it to the NFL yet. I think this was still in his college days, or he was on his way to the NFL. So anyway, woman comes out, says, hey, that guy raped me. So for me, two narratives instantly play in my head. First narrative, oh, bro, that quarterback guy, just because he's good at quarterbacking, he can do anything. That's what he thinks. Oh, it's terrible, bro. And I'm sure that's how a lot of people play it off, right? Like, shame on all football players everywhere. They're all the same, which is silly, of course, to say. And the second narrative is, who is this woman? Man, she's probably just a gold digger, man. She just wants money. That guy's going to be rich, and she's trying to get money out of him. Now, I don't know anything about either the man or the woman. Like, I don't know them at all. I haven't read about them. That was like the only thing I just heard on the news. The frustrating thing is both of these things could equally be true. Again, I don't know them. Now, of course, in the BJ Penn thing, I've never met him. I don't know what he's like. So it's always possible. The flip side is the woman could be lying. I have no idea. It could be either way. I think it would have been wrong if the UFC dumped on him now. I think, especially without any kind of conviction or something else like a next step happening, I think it would have been a little premature. These days, there's a lot of guilty until proven innocent, and I don't like that either. A good example was there's some guy, I forgot who he was, but he was arrested for murder. And then, of course, he's like, man, I didn't do it. And the case was based on DNA evidence, which sounds huge. It's DNA. So back then, this was a long time ago, because he was in prison for like decades plus. Back then, it was like, yeah, we got the DNA, put him away. But now our DNA testing is way better. So what was the DNA that they found? Well, they found blood samples. Okay. So 2 of them were carpet samples. 2 of them were someone who wasn't even there, or it wasn't him because he wasn't there. It wasn't even his DNA. And the 5th one was a dog. So the guy, he was like, man, my theory is the dog did it. Ha ha ha. So thank God he can laugh about it, because that man was in prison for a very long time. But yeah, like, people get proven guilty, quote unquote, sometimes before there is even a trial, which is unfortunate. And in this case, again, as a guy who has no facts, it seems to be way premature to dump on him. So, hey, man, fingers crossed. Hopefully he doesn't have that happen to him, especially, because too many people get hit by that. I've heard it too many times. Even if the state pays the guy $1 million, which I've heard of, that guy, I've heard him also rebuttal with, I don't want your million. Give me back my children's childhood. They grew up without me. It's like, well, that's impossible.
So again, like, we had talked about this before the show on how to approach this kind of topic. And again, just to put it out there, we're not saying that, no, he didn't do it and she's lying, she's gold digging him. Not at all. We're not saying that, oh my God, this guy's all fucked up because, he's a monster. We don't know. And that's kind of where we have to leave this. But again, it's something that's out there, just so our audience knows that we're not going to ignore the fact that this is going to be behind the scenes. They're probably going to talk about it at 237 in a couple weeks. When they're on pay-per-view, just expect this to come out. Joe Rogan or whoever else is going to mention it. So that's the facts as we can report it. That's what we can say with confidence, is that this is what is reported to have happened, and it kind of a shitty situation either way for someone that we consider to be a local hero to have this kind of in the background of it. But hey, man, if it did happen, then you gotta pay the piper. If it didn't, then, well, hopefully everything works out good.
I feel like our listeners knows what's up.
Yeah, of course. But yes, we are getting hype, as we said, and for those of you in chat, UFC 237, couple weeks from now, there's a huge card. BJ Penn's on it. If I watch it, because it's going to be shown at various bars and things here, honestly, it'll be for BJ Penn, because I haven't been keeping up as well with the rest of UFC. But It'll be cool either way.
Real quick, do you know the other names, or are you familiar with them at all?
Let's see here. I'm looking at it right now. Jose Aldo is fighting.
Okay, that's cool.
Yep, in the featherweight division. Anderson Silva.
Oh, nice.
Is fighting.
Nice.
So I mean, there's a couple other like more familiar names on there.
Okay, cool.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see if we get to seeing it or not. Anyway, we want to thank everyone who jumped in chat with us today, who came to join us for our discussion on the Prodigy, BJ Penn, and MMA and the UFC in general. If you like what you are listening to, this show is available on all the popular podcast services, including iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you can listen to podcasts, you can find us. We are broadcasting this live at twitch.tv/howisitnetwork. Come join up with us like so many of the people did in the chat today. Klingana Sparta, Albi Ruru, Kuroi, Neeks, thank you very much for hanging out with us. Bedtime Bear TV, you were here as well. We love you all. If you want to see more of our stuff, howsitnetwork.com. That's the collection of everything. We link all of our stuff to the website. Check it out if you want to see everything that we're up to.
And if you like that Alvin goodness, please visit alohalvin.com. I really like how I speak, and if you enjoyed me today, I'm sure you enjoy the site.
And if you want to see more from me, particularly, I'm at HowsItChris on Twitter. I like to post whatever kind of funny thing I'm thinking or feeling at the time. But oh man, it's tough to balance the two social network sites. We want to thank you all for lending us your beautiful ears. And it's not goodbye. We shall see you later.